It is here. Battle for world domination. The most exciting strategy game of the year. Fight, rule, conquer, play, win. Conqueror, Final Conquest, in stores soon.
Okay, welcome to another board game exposure live interview. Well, it's not live today, but we're going to play it live so you can see it, and hopefully this will work. I'm joined by Mohammad today from what's your company called? Your publishing company?
Cat Iron Arts.
There you go. And you actually have a published game with us today, Conqueror. So before we get into the specifics of that, why don't you tell us why board games? What got you into board games?
Honestly, I've loved board games since I was a kid, as many of you probably grew up playing a lot of board games. My favorite was chess. I love strategy games, whether that's a board game or even computer games and video games. I love anything to do with strategy. Even my full-time job is doing strategy. So that's my thing, and hence why Conqueror is a strategy game.
Brilliant. And you were on the website, so it's the first game designed and published in the UAE?
Yeah, I mean, this is the first game that's come out of Dubai and Abu Dhabi, which are two cities that are about an hour and a half apart. Um, Initially, we released this game for the local market. It's done so well in the entire region, and we thought we'd take this
Brilliant.
opportunity this year to start expanding globally and selling it across the world.
Fantastic. And what's the board game scene like where you are in Dubai and Abu Dhabi?
Honestly, the best way I can describe it is think of the US or the UK a couple of decades ago. So it's where,
Okay.
everyone's starting to it's a growth market. It's heavily growing. People are transitioning from easier games like Monopoly and Risk into more heavy games, and it's gaining a following. Traditionally, the Middle East is really big on card games, right? That's what we
Okay.
usually say. But I think there's been this transition toward games recently.
Okay. And is that one of the reasons why you went through the publishing route rather than Kickstarter, for example?
Yeah, I mean, this is, I think, one of the struggles that we've been facing with the international expansion is, everything goes through Kickstarter over here. No one does, I wouldn't say no one, but very few people go through the Kickstarter route. It's mostly through retail sale and online. And the other kind of element is even on Board Game Geek, we have sold thousands of copies, but if you go on the website, you'll find like 70 ratings because most of the people who play here are not BGG kind of users. So
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about the game itself then.
awesome, man. I mean, the best way I've heard it being described is a historic kind of gateway strategy game.
Okay.
And I just want to clarify something because when people say gateway, they always think of a game that's like um, easy to learn, but that's not too deep and doesn't have much strategy. And that's not the
Yeah.
case here. Maybe gateway is the wrong kind of term because it is super easy to learn. It takes you about 10 minutes, 15 minutes tops. But the strategy involved, man, I've been playing this for an entire year now. I've probably clocked in at least 1,000 games. And every time I play with someone new, it's like something new happens, or I discover a new strategy. It's super complex for a skilled gamer, and it could be very light for a casual gamer. And I think that's what I was aiming for, and that's what's nice about it. The other thing, Nick, that I like is um, and what I was aiming for is this authenticity. I'm so into history, man. I'll show you in a second some of my book library, and I'm fascinated by this theme, this era of the Roman Empire and Carthage and Alexander the Great and Persia. I know they're a couple of 100 years apart, but this entire kind of era is so fascinating to me, and I just wanted to create something that's super authentic, not just in terms of the meeples we're using or the or miniatures or the cards or everything else. It's about even the gameplay. Like when you play, you feel like you're stuck in the third century BC and you feel like every decision you make is something that pulls you into that authentic historic theme. So that's what we were aiming for, and I think we did a good job. Hopefully, we did.
I read a very positive review the other day on Big Boss Battle.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was interested to see that, and I think Bird's Eye View have played it as well.
Yeah, they have, and War Games have played it. Cameron Arts, I think it's all been positive.
Yeah.
Just a heads up, I think with Big Boss Battle, I think they played a variant of the game that was never intended, but it was an interesting read. I mean, me and Nick were laughing about it later on. And I'll explain it in a second. So you see this timer right here. I'll
Yeah.
explain how this works. What makes this game so special is not that it's done in real time, but the planning phase is done in real time. So the actual game, there are like two phases, right? There's a phase where you plan your move, and this is where you recruit your troops, you earn your money, you get your hero cards sorted, and then there's the actual action phase where you attack people and so forth.
Yeah.
So this timer is just meant to be used in the planning phase. So you got 60 seconds to recruit your troops, get your money, buy a hero card, and decide on your first move. And then you're supposed to stop the timer. The timer's supposed to get out of the game. But I think Nick played it where he played the entire action phase under 60 seconds, which is interesting to say the least.
Probably played Pendulum beforehand or something.
Yeah, probably.
So the timer element's really to stop people overthinking and analysis paralysis.
It is, but the best way I'll describe it is I actually love thinking. I'm the kind of person who likes to spend a few minutes in thinking about my move. The timer is there so that when it's other people's turns, you actually sit down and you think about your move. Because what we've noticed through all the playtesting, even with skilled gamers, is they sometimes get so into the game that they forget about planning their next move. So the round comes, and then when the round comes, suddenly they want to decide at that point in time what they want to do. And my concept of board game is you want to reduce the downtime as much as possible. So have people think about their moves while others are playing. And this kind of forces them to do so. So I still think you get a lot of time to think. It's just you're not doing it when your round starts. You got to do it while other people are playing.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah,
makes sense. As long as it'd be a nightmare for people with their phones out. I have a friend. He's funny because he has analysis paralysis, which I wouldn't mind if he did a good move, but he always does bad moves afterwards. And like it comes around to my go, and I'm like, right, my plan A is gone, so I'm going to go to my plan B, but I might have to bring in part of my plan C. And it comes to his go, and he's like, well, I don't know what to do. I'm like, I had 3 plans, man. Come on. But yeah. So tell us more about the rest of the gameplay.
All right, man. It's quite simple, honestly. So I might actually do this in case everybody wants to see the game up and close. So this is a 5 to 6 player map. If you flip this board to the other side, you can actually play it from 2 to 4 players. And the cool part about this game is that not only do you need to capture these 5 forts that you see here, so there are large forts and then there are a little bit of small forts. You got to capture 5, but the key here is that you got to hold them for 1 round. So it's not enough to capture the 5. Other players get 1 entire round to kind of take them away from you. The other cool thing I think is good to mention are these waterways that everyone's been fascinated with, and I think it's pretty novel as a game mechanic. And you'll notice that the map has these rivers, like the Danube River here, and the Mediterranean, obviously, all the way here, and even the North Sea. And the great part about it is you can actually use it in gameplay and to attack people and shift your forces from one side of the map to the other at lightning speed. So if I was, Greece, I could move my cavalry into the sea, and then the next round I can actually attack Egypt from the sea, right? Which makes it a very interesting dynamic, and it kind of connects all the players together. I didn't want 2 people that are playing on opposite ends of the board game to feel like they haven't interacted with one another.
Yeah.
That was a big part of it. A third part is you'll notice, obviously the large forts are so strategic. There are certain locations, like for example, Liberia here on the map, that has a large castle that allows you to win. Large castles also allow you to recruit an army, so that's super important. But in addition to that, you'll notice that they have this farm icon and a gold icon. So a gold gives you money, and that money you can actually use to recruit your generals, which are devastating in the game. They're like your superheroes. And additionally to that, you got these farms that allow you to recruit more and more units. So they're like, you can recruit as many units as you want through forts, but if you do not have enough farms to feed your units and you don't have enough food supply, then you gotta your army starts dying out and you gotta scale them back. So there's this rock paper scissors element where you might not have enough troops, and you really gotta decide if you want to focus on getting money or farms to build your army, or kind of focus on getting as many forts as possible to win the game. And so it's an interesting dynamic, and I think it's pretty simple for strategy gamers. It's a time and tested element. And then you have these independent armies here that kind of block you from conquering these valuable territories from the beginning of the game. So these are, CPUs. They're people that you gotta attack and defeat in order for you to get that territory, rather than just waltzing in, like some of the other less valuable territories allow you to do. I think what's super interesting about this game is you really kind of relive the ancient battles of the world. So you'll notice that there's Carthage and Rome here. You'll notice there's these bonus missions that every player has. So, for example, on this bonus mission, sorry, the lighting is horrible here, but you got to control Sicily for a couple of rounds. That's a Carthage mission. So that drives Carthage from North Africa all the way to Italy here, and they kind of invade the Roman kind of sphere of influence. And at the same time, Rome wants to conquer North, for example, to gain some territories. So Rome is kind of pulled between, do I fight Gaul or do I fight Carthage? Who do I attack first? And there's all these interesting dynamics that happen accordingly.
Okay. Brilliant. And the kind of some of the mechanics you've mentioned, I guess in a historical game, it's a bit more difficult to get that quick movement. So when you were talking about being able to get across the other side of the map, I think of Kemet, but they have the kind of mythological map. It's not historically accurate, so they can make all the kind of areas close to each other. You can't do that, can you? So you have to kind of keep it geographically and historically straight. So the waterways becomes your way
exactly.
around that. Yeah.
And the waterways have some interesting dynamics. So you don't have to build a ship to get into there. The logic here is that by moving into the sea, we're assuming that your army has built some sort of a navy to be able to carry it. However, if you're in a land territory and someone attacks you and you lose a battle and you got to vacate that territory, you're not able to retreat in the sea, because the logic is, if you're under pressure and an army is breathing down your neck, you're not going to have time so your army dies out if there's no land territory to escape to. So there's these interesting historical dynamics that we've even incorporated into the rules of the game. Every rule kind of makes sense in its own way and follows true to the theme and the historical era.
Go on, sorry.
I think one of the interesting stuff about the timer is the bribing mechanism, which we haven't talked about now. Some people play this game and not a single bribe happens in a game, and some people get bribed like 6 times, probably your friends, right? And the idea here is that the bribing mechanism is, your army is so frustrated by your inaction, that you're sitting down and you're not doing anything, that they are open to switching sides with other players. So if the timer runs out and you haven't made a single move, your army's frustrated, any player can actually then, this can only happen once to you during a round. Someone can actually bribe one of your armies that's around the map, and that army effectively becomes his. You replace his units with your units. So I thought this was it's a harsh mechanic, but it's an interesting mechanic, and it also stays true to the theme of history, right? I think the other thing that's really cool that I wanted to show you perhaps are these hero cards. So you got across like the different elements, you got these amazing hero cards, for example, Julius Caesar.
Okay.
And if you'll see the top right of their corner, and these are faction specific, obviously, that gives them battle strength during battle. And there's text around here that gives them special abilities during a battle. The cool thing about these cards is they are expensive and you can only use them once in the game. So you got to be so strategic on when to use them. And that usually kind of really dictates how well you do in battle and winning the game. The other really the other thing that I was really aiming for in the game is to mimic the ebbs and flows of civilizations, right? Because over time there's a civilization that rises and then it kind of
Yeah.
declines and it might rise again, and you'll notice that in the game there aren't any specific catch up mechanics, where you get a card for losing a game or something, but inbuilt through the player interactions and through the way the map is set and through the way the resources are set, pretty much, I haven't seen a single game, unless someone just gives up in the middle. I haven't seen a single game where a good or a decent player was really losing badly and wasn't able to recover. So there's always this element of, civilization rising and falling. Um, so I think that's a nice thing as well about the game is your ability to kind of switch gears and you get to see fortunes and you go through the lows and you go through the highs during the game.
Nice. And originally it was 3 to 6 players, but now you include a free expansion in the game, which makes it 2 to 6 players.
Yeah,
And there was
I
some
mean,
other
listen,
bits.
yeah, I mean, listen, we got so unlucky because when we started this project, it was about I wanted to get 6 players on the board. I didn't want 3 players. I really wanted people to play the whole 6 player game, and that was like the cream, like the best feeling you get is when you play as 6 players and maybe 5 players. And then COVID hit a few months later, and we always had this plan to have a 2 player expansion. It was supposed to be for $15. It was supposed to go on Kickstarter for the first time, and what we did is we adjusted it. So I scrapped the entire expansion, and I redesigned the expansion because I thought if someone is stuck at home and he has my game, I don't want them to pay more money to get to play it with their husband or wife or partner or whoever it is.
Yeah.
And so what we've done is we've completely redesigned the game, and you don't need to buy anything. With this Conqueror game, you can actually play duels. So that's the name of the expansion, Conqueror Duels. This one is Conqueror Final Conquest. And on duels, there's a 2 player game where it's Rome versus Carthage, obviously.
Yeah.
But the cool part about it, and my favorite part about duels, is you get 5 scenarios. So these mimic Alexander's conquest of Persia. There's a scenario about the first Syrian battle between the Hellenic kingdoms of Persia and Egypt. There's the Gallic Wars that everyone. So that's when Julius Caesar attacked Gaul. And there's my favorite scenario is actually a fictional scenario. So it's scenario 4, and I actually got the idea. Have you watched the show on Amazon? I can't remember what it's called, but when it's an alternate universe where the Nazis took over, and
The Man in the High Tower.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
So I love that show because it really shows you how, like the butterfly effect, how the world could have
Yeah.
gone horribly wrong. And so what I've done is I've created the scenario where what happened if Alexander the Great was assassinated a few days into his reign. And he never, reunited or invaded Persia. He never invaded India. He never
Okay.
destroyed the Persian Empire. And that scenario you see is Persia actually eventually conquers Greece and becomes strong. And at the same time, Rome becomes really strong. And the cool part about this 2 player game is you actually play Rome versus Persia, but you get to use all the hero cards of the subjugated factions that fall under you. You
Yeah.
get to use 12 hero cards, and you have like these massive armies that cover half the map, which never happens in a 6 player game. And it's super cool to play. And we introduced some really interesting new game mechanics under duels. It's not just making it as a 2 player game. So I'll give you an example. One catch-up mechanism we introduced is if you're really getting sorry for not being PG, your ass kicked, right? If you're really getting whooped, and there's an event that's triggered where you can choose, and you can only do it once in the game, to rally your empire. So rallying your empire, you go to your people, you kind of strip them of all their money, the wealthy. You kind of play up to nationalistic favors, fervor, and so forth, and you're able to muster or recruit more than you usually can. You get a few extra hero cards if you get a few extra money, and so you're able to stop getting your ass kicked basically and recovering a little bit. So that's like one nice mechanism that we've introduced. There are like 7 or 8 new mechanisms that we've introduced in duels, and the cool part is some scenarios have different mechanisms. So based on the scenario, you'll get new mechanisms to play. And the really cool part about it is it takes about a minute to learn a scenario. It doesn't take any longer. So as long as you know the base game, it takes about a minute or two to get updated with the scenario and you can play it.
Excellent. And what were for you getting this manufactured, produced from the UAE? Were there any unique challenges to that?
No, man. I mean, we publish this, we produce this in China, right? But I think, fulfillment wasn't an issue for us at the beginning because all the games were coming to this region. Today, we've had to sign obviously with DHL and Aramex to be able to get you the games internationally. So if you buy this game today, we charge you about $10 for shipping. It actually costs us about $25 per piece. But we kind of take that loss of $15 in order to deliver it to you to the States or the UK or wherever you're living.
And obviously, this is a kind of game that you're hugely proud of with the history and everything. What's the future for Conqueror, and then what's the future for your game studio?
Lovely, man. Number one is we are already planning expansion called Conqueror Emperors. So Conqueror Emperors is even more geared towards heavy gamers. Casual gamers will be able to pick it up, but it's really something that's going to require double the skill. You can subscribe to our blog on our website, conquerorfc.com, and you can see all the amazing additions that we're adding. It's going to go on Kickstarter, so please follow us so that you're up to date. The other element in terms of our game studio, we had about 4 other games planned. They've already been designed and play tested. We just put them on hold because they're multiplayer games, and I don't want to release them during COVID. So those will probably go online either in 2021 or 2022.
Brilliant. So if you do want to find out more about Conqueror, we'll put the link to the website down below. We are also doing a giveaway for the copy of the game with Mohammad, which will go live after this video goes live. So you'll have a chance to get in on that and win a copy of the game. Thank you so much to Mohammad for giving us some different perspectives on games, and we really hope that the game scene continues to grow and to catch up rapidly for you guys. I'm sure you're going to be leading that charge as well. And do look out for more content on Board Game Exposure. Thanks. Bye.
Thanks, man.